The Monte and the Pharaoh Show is brought to you by...
Because wine is your second favorite four-letter word. California wine, New York attitude. Good fucking wine.
Yeah.
Dino Luzi energy drink. Yeah, it's that good.
Headed to the bottom of the bottle, I've been drowning, I've been floating away. Every other dollar that I got in bed, I probably went and it away. I ain't f***ing okay, I ain't liking it, babe. I don't even wanna talk, I'm just smoking my haze. I've been stuck in my ways, I've been stuck here for days. I've been staring at the clock as the radio plays. I'm enslaved. Yeah. Rolling another, I'm stuck in my seat for the whole control of my speech. Yeah, I've been trying to get off this couch for a minute and a whole week. No kidding, I'm skinny, I cannot eat. Got a million that depend on me. Yeah, every friend in my family, from a girl, every fan I meet myself. I'm too on till I'm too off. Come down to make new thoughts, like jumping off of that rooftop. Whole life ever when I do nothing, make moves based on my mood drops. Like who's lost? Like who's lost? It's yo, steadily killing me, running my brain full of shame. I don't wanna lose it.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with episode 2 of the original G-Man of Hip Hop presents the G-Spot. So I want to talk about my company, Universal Talent Bookings, UTB Talent Management is the acronym, representing Mr. G-Man for personal appearances, speaking engagements, performances, film and television work. So we've got a couple projects coming up. We're going to be featuring G-Man in as an actor. He's going to be featured with speaking lines, dialogue, screen time. He's going to be a major part of the film. First one coming up is with our client, Leon Isaac Kennedy, and it's called Fight for Freedom, which is the unofficial, official sequel to the Penitentiary film, Penitentiary Part 4, where Leon will be reprising his role as Too Sweet Martell Gordon. And we are actually shooting this in Savannah, Georgia during the month of August. And G-Man is a permanent fixture in that film. So stay tuned for his role. It's going to be very interesting on that. The other one is a film called Prism, which is the El Chapo Guzman story. And that's going to be filming in Albuquerque, New Mexico in September. And we actually represent the writer of that film, Tony Tarantino, who's Quentin Tarantino's father. And we're in negotiations right now with Joaquin Phoenix to star as the lead El Chapo, which he's already agreed to do. So in that film, G-Man will be playing the DEA director opposite of our client, Jesse the Body Ventura, who's on the trail of El Chapo Guzman and the story. So that's a very pivotal part in the film. So these acting opportunities, brother, what do you feel about some of this stuff, man?
Oh man, I'm excited, man. I'm excited. But before I say that, hey, what you think about the new Kangos, man? This is new merchandise we got, man. What you think?
I love it. That's
Yeah,
G-Man.
Yeah,
on
man.
point.
We stepping up our grown man. And look at the new T-shirts, man. Look at the new T-shirts. They got the picture of G-Man on the back of it. The original.
That's what I'm talking about.
You know, our merchandise is and no sweat. They're high quality, and I mean they reasonably priced, and they actually selling out at all the shows, man. It's like I can't keep them. If I autograph them, they go for more. So you know, I'm just blessed. And as you was asking, Tim, I want to say, you know, first publicly, I want to say thank you for taking on my project, you know what I mean, for taking on my career. You know, there's been a lot of people that have been trying to keep me out of the way because, you know, I bring so much realism to the show, so much authenticity when it comes to hip hop, and so much truth, and so much, not to pat myself on the back, but adversity and in talent. I bring so many different dimensions to talent that a lot of people, it seemed to be one dimensional, and you pick up that I'm not one dimensional, and it puts me in the likes of The Rock, you know what I mean, Dwayne Johnson. You know, you got a history with his family for as managing his father, Rocky Johnson, and all that. So and Leon Isaac Kennedy, and you know, these was all stars that I watched as we was growing up, and to be able to meet Leon, which we talked almost every few days. We was actually on the phone last night talking, you know, yesterday, and he's very spiritual, you know what I mean. He's a minister. He has his word going on, and I'm very spiritual, so we connected. You know, we actually, me, you, and him, when I picked you up from the airport, because that's my manager and that's my friend. So I don't just sit around. I get in my car, and I go and pick my guys up myself, so they don't have to be taking no Uber or no limos and all that. We family. So I went and picked them up myself, and we spent the day, and then we ended the day off with a long prayer. See, that's the type of stuff that's more important to me than the music, the movies, and all that, is staying spiritually and God grounded. You know what I mean?
1000%. Yes, absolutely.
Kingdom. So I wanted to say thank you, Timothy Bill and Universal Talent Booking, and thank you to my personal road manager, Rob Kenneth, which y'all be seeing in a couple of episodes. I'm bringing him out to talk about what we got going on with some stuff that we'll be doing together, and I just want to say thank you, man, because you recognize something that a lot of people is taken for granted and don't recognize. So to be able to be acting as you asked me, man, I'm getting ready to act alongside Joaquin Phoenix and Jesse the Body Ventura. I'm playing a DEA agent, and to be a professionally trained bodyguard, that's like right up my alley. You know what I mean? And then
right on.
In action, I mean, I'm a beast when it comes to action, and you see that in the other movie that I was in, Mad as Hell. You'll see the action. I really got some gifts and some talents that was hidden for a long time and stifled. So thank you, Timothy Bill. So that's what I got to say about that, man. I appreciate you.
And to that effect, I say you're welcome, man, and you deserve it, brother. You deserve everything and more. So because you paid your dues, you went through hellfire and brimstone, and you're here to talk about your experience, man. And that's great because that influences a lot of people to do the right thing. That encourages people. That's positivity, man. That's like what to do, what not to do. You know, that's good stuff, man. So let's talk about another actual, because you are a quadruple threat, and most people don't know you are a quadruple threat. And one of the things that you do that I love is you are really heavily involved in artist development. So you develop artists to think outside the box and to do what they should do and what they shouldn't do. So talk about a little bit of that, man. Like, how did you get started in artist development?
You know, because being one of the first guys in this hip hop culture to have everything taken from you, and I just vowed that I would never let that happen to another artist if I can help it, especially these new artists. Now, some of these artists that you hear on the radio that's doing fabulous, that forgot about me now, because, you know, I had people like Tretch from Naughty by Nature. I had people like LL Cool J, you know, at Jazz in the Gardens here in Miami a year or so ago, seeing me and told the people that was with me, "Do you know who your stepdad is?" And they said, "Yeah, that's my dad." And he says, no. If it wasn't for him, it wouldn't be no us. So everybody in hip hop ought to write him a check. And that meant something to me. Nobody's wrote the check yet. We still waiting on the check, Tim. You know, but that meant a lot to me to hear LL Cool J say that, man. You know, and that came out of his own mouth, out of his own recognizances, and to hear people like Barry White, Michael Jackson, Shirley Caesar, to say stuff like, "Gee, man, they don't see you coming." And this was years ago, in different times and different places. People said the same thing verbatim. So that those things stand out in my mind, man, and it kind of makes me feel like all the journey was worth it. So when I'm developing a new artist, I teach them entertainment etiquette. You know what I mean? I teach them the values of being appreciative of the small things that you get that can lead to big things. Because if you can't be trusted with the small thing, God's never going to give you the keys to the kingdom. You know what I mean? So I develop an artist to let them know to be more than just a rapper or a singer. Become an entertainer. You know, go get educated, and don't just get educated in stuff that you like. Look at the gifts that God has put in you, and get educated in the gifts that He put in you. Because that's like His words going back to Him void, which would never happen. So if He gives you gifts, those are His gifts that He gave you. He's gonna bless those gifts. That you don't have to worry about. So that's what I want to. That's what I want to say. You know, where that's concerned. You know what I mean? I'm just appreciative of small things. And you hear on the radio some of these artists that's on there that's big, then came through my artist development curriculum. I have a 90-day curriculum that I composed. And it costs, but it's not expensive. You put a little deposit down and you pay the rest off weekly, bi-weekly, or once a month, so you can watch your growth as you go along through the course. You know what I mean? At the end of the 90 days, you're so prolific that you can start literally writing your own checks, creating, opening and closing your own deals. You know how to approach situations. You know how to go in the studio and carry yourself. See, a lot of artists, just this is important. They go into a studio, they pay for studio time, and they walk out of there. Then a few months later, they hear that the tracks that they was working on being sung by other people, and they don't realize that it's not. They have no reason to be mad at when they hear that, because you don't understand the business etiquette. See, industry gets you laid and business gets you paid. Excuse me, y'all. Excuse me.
That's actually a really good way to put that, man. So, how did you get hooked up with DJ Easy Rock and Rob Bass? How did that transition happen?
Excuse me, I'm just getting over a slight cold, and y'all gotta bear with me. This is the G spot, and the G is all good. We keep it working. You know what I mean? And when I say about these artists, what they don't understand, and I'm gonna talk about the Rob Bass and DJ Easy Rock thing, is that in order to become successful, you have to pay homage to the forefathers. You have to pay homage to those that came before you, and these artists have to understand that. So they get up there and they don't realize that it takes something special for you to become successful without a record out. Excuse me, when you're in the entertainment business. And how I got with Rob Bass and DJ Easy Rock. I was taking a hiatus from doing entertainment because the industry was changing. And I was doing sales. I was a salesman. I was selling Kirby vacuums. And you know how hard that is to sell vacuum cleaners. And I was taking a hard, and me being who I am, you know, back then I always had that hustle game in me. I'm going to get out and work and make $1. An honest day pay never hurt nobody. So I was selling Kirby vacuums, and I came up with this thing called the van program, where I tell the company, you rent a van, you give me about 4 or 5 guys in the van with me, and then instead of you just sending me out in my car to go sell a van, you give me 4 or 5 guys in the van and young ladies in the van, and we'll go out in neighborhoods and we'll come back in with 10 or 20 sales. That happened. It was successful. So I was working in Ridgewood, Queens, doing that with Frank Giacalone. That was an Italian guy, very nice guy, and Robert Elder, a guy named Robert Elder. I took a break one day. I was kind of getting tired of that too. So I'm always doing what Michael Jackson told me. I always like to reinvent myself. Always want to reinvent yourself so you can stay relevant on another level. So I took a break, and I said I wanted to take the day off. Matter of fact, I'm gonna take 2 or 3 days off. I got enough sales on there. I'm gonna take a couple of days off. So I let my guys go home, and I drove from Brooklyn all the way up to Manhattan to Edgecombe Avenue, 155th and Edgecombe Avenue, where my sister was living. And I wanted to visit the family, so I went up there, and my cousin, when I was living in St. Croix in the Virgin Islands, my mother's West Indian, she was born in St. Croix, the U.S. Virgin Islands, and in Christiansted, you know. So my cousin that I had met when I was down there was living with my sister at the time. His name was Paul Yarwood. We call him Pablo, Blow for short. And if you listen to It Takes Two, in the beginning of It Takes Two, you hear that sound, that voice that come on and says, "You about to be possessed by the sounds of MC Rob Bass and DJ Easy rock, rock, rock." That's my cousin Pablo's voice, his actual voice, who is my blood cousin. So I went up to see my sister, and my cousin Pablo was coming out the door. So we was catching up. I hadn't seen him in years. So, you know, it was like exciting. And then he had to go make a run. He had to go and do something. But I was going on in, and he had a friend over there with him who he left in there while he had to go take care of some business. And this guy was just sitting down on the floor in my cousin's room, and he was just listening to some music, and he was drinking some suds out of a 40-ounce bottle. Back then, the old English, old gold. He was drinking suds out. You don't hear about the naughty 40s anymore. So he was drinking suds out of it, and I thought that was a little odd, but you know, hey. And then he was smoking a cigarette, but a Newport, and then it was no cigarette left on him, just a butt. So we struck up a conversation, and we just, you know, we kind of clicked. It was something that was a natural click, you know what I mean? And he said, "Hi, my name is Rob." I said, "Hey, what's up? I'm G." You know what I mean? You know, blah blah blah. We talking, you know, kicking a woolly bobo, you know. So I said, "I'll be right back." I went to go get me some Chinese food from the Chinese restaurant right around the corner from the house. And when I went into the store to get me something to drink, I remember that he was drinking a 40-ounce bottle of Old English, but it was empty. So I grabbed him a 40-ounce, and I grabbed him a pack of Newports because he was a nice guy and he was smoking a cigarette butt. You know what I mean? So I came back. When I got back to the house, I said, "Hey man, I picked this up for you." And he thought that was so cool that somebody thought about him and got that for him without him having to ask. And we got into a good conversation, and we met a few times, and he said, "I got a song coming out." I said, "Well, you can't rap," but at the time, he never knew who I was. Even when I was in the group, Rob Bass and DJ Easy Rock, I never told Rob who I was. Never once did I step on his toes or anybody in the group toes to tell him who I was, because when it's your time to shine, it's your time to shine. So I never got into the battle rapping with them. I never did. I stayed in my lane. So he asked me one day, I told him that I did some security for a Michael Jackson lookalike and a Prince lookalike in Indiana. So he was like, "What?" So I said, "Yeah." So he said, "How'd you like to be my bodyguard?" Because I was a big guy. I was almost 300 pounds. You know, I was a big guy, but you could tell I had a lot on the ball. I was educated. I was straightforward, and I had the street game on lock with conversation. You ain't gonna bull crap me. I'm not going for it because I already been there. You know. So we met that way, and then and that was like in the end of '89, early '90 or something like that, and then I was with him from that point on to 1996. You know, all the world tours with him. You know, Hype Man, Bodyguard, Living Chef, Living Bodyguard. You know, we was boys. It was Rob and G riding around Harlem all the time in that Mercedes Benz, the gold and black Benz with the rag top and the gold emblems. It was Rob and G. You know what I mean? Even though it was Rob and Skip is Easy Rock, who God bless, who's passed on. You know, they was boys, but me and Rob was tight. You know what I mean? From the time period, from that frame. So that's how me and Rob met.
Right on. So what would you think would be the best sound advice to give to young artists? I'm gonna tell you what I think it is. I represent a lot of young artists who are trying to get into the business, but they don't know the business behind the business the way that you and I do. And one of the things a lot of artists don't really realize and understand is how important it is to retain your publishing rights. That's what I think it's all about, retaining your publishing rights. But I want to hear from your perspective.
Your intellectual property. Own your intellectual property. See, and I'm gonna tell you, artists, man, when I'm developing an artist, I get into all that. I do everything from your copyrights, your publishing, setting up your publishing companies. I teach them all that, and I go above and beyond. From your ASCAP to your BMI, how to hold mics, how to use falsetto voices when your voice crack and you can't perform. You think I show you how you can continue performing. You know what I mean? I teach them to dig deep and find out who their why. What's your why? You know what I mean? and that's very important. So, but let me tell you, man, if I had to tell you one thing, with the deal that I signed over in UK, I keep my intellectual property, even though I signed a single, and I do single deals. I ain't doing no album until it become iconic. The music I do is never go outdated. It's always trend-setting stuff. And I also I negotiated a 30% split, which is unheard of.
Mm-hmm.
And they still do the promotion and marketing and advertising and all that stuff. You see what I'm saying? So that because they understand that the legendary, the iconic ship, the you know, all that they understand. And artists, I tell you, maintain your intellectual property, maintain the ownership of your stuff. Why you think Michael Jackson is not here no more? Not that that's just the truth. You know what I mean? Because him, Whitney Houston, Barry White, Prince, all of them had one thing in common, well, two things in common. One was the fact that they all had owned, they was owning or getting in ownership of their own intellectual property. And Michael Jackson owned half of Sony, and all their publishing, half of their publishing was made the music world mad because he did smart business. And the other thing they all had in common, which strikes me as artist, Clyde Davis. You know what I mean? You know, I just something even all the way back to Elvis. When you think back, the lineage between the people that's in charge now goes back to all the way back then to even Elvis Presley, who was a great performer, entertainer. You know what I mean? And that's what it boils down to. And he had soul. He was around a lot of blacks, African Americans, and then you see most of the success in entertainment when it comes to music, sports, the stuff that you always see that it has some lineage that has to do with the other communities other than the ones that call itself owning it. Excuse me.
1,000,000%. Copyright, intellectual property, publishing rights, you know, making sure your music's registered with BMI and ASCAP. It's the Union for Music Writers and people that don't know out there, because that's so important, man. I mean, that way you get paid off every time somebody samples one of your songs, every time one of your songs is played in a film, every time songs is played in the commercial. You get paid for all that and more, man. And that's really the retirement for the artist, because a lot of artists don't think outside the box. They don't think that far along, and they don't have retirement when they get to a certain age because they didn't protect themselves. So that's really important, man. That's a really important thing for artists to know and understand. And that's part of the business behind the business.
Right.
So my thing with you, man, is like, talk about your newest song, Be Where You Are. Because I know you worked with Michael Jackson. How did it work out that you had Michael Jackson's voice on that song?
You know, it's weird. Even like how I even met Mike, it was crazy. You know, it's always seemed that things happen when you don't least expect it. You know, I happened to be on tour on the Bobby Brown Don't Be Cruel tour, if you would, or the King of Stage tour. You know what I mean? And we was actually opening up for him, which was Rob Bass, Karen White, Levert, and of course Bobby Brown. We was nominated for Soul Train Music Award, and we was at the Shrine Theater in California, and which we was going up against the group EU, and they had Doing the Butt. And of course, the devil music always seemed to win. When you talk about sex, violence, and all that, you know, it's for some reason they get the edge over the good stuff. So I refused to get out of the hallway because Michael Jackson was coming in the building one day. And his security was trying to tell me to get out of the hallway. I'm not getting out of the hallway. I'm a professional bodyguard, and I got a client that's using the restroom, who I was working with at the time. I'm not getting out of the hallway. So I guess he thought because it's Michael Jackson or because he had on a suit that I was getting out of the way. Not gonna happen today, player. Not gonna happen. So I turned into Bernie Mac. I wish the hell you do something. If you want to do something, I'll do something to you. I'm trying to tell you right now, I would beat your head up in this mug. You know, so I was really, really serious about not moving. And I guess the police officer that was out there, one of the police officers came over. It was like a sergeant or lieutenant or something. He came over and he said, what's the commotion about? I said, well, I explained, I'm not fitting to get out of the way because he's saying his client get ready to come in, and I got my client inside. So in the bathroom. So he says, he talked to me and he talked to him, then he come back to both of us, and whoever this guy boss was come over, and the police officers that was there, the sergeant said, he said, I can't make this man move because he's head of security.
Mm-hmm.
Now if he's head of security, actually you work for him, is what he told Michael Jackson guy. You work for Michael Jackson, but you don't work for the tour or the venue. This man is head of security for the venue and the tour. So we can't make him move or leave. If anything, he can turn it around and have you removed. So I guess the word got to Mike, because they sent the word out to Mike. Mike come in, and I'm still standing over there by the restroom. Mike looks at me and he smiles and he nods his head at me, and he goes on in the building. You know what I mean? We get to a hotel now late that night. Now Michael Jackson got the whole top 3 floors of the hotel blocked off. He got, now you know how many rooms that is? He got not just his floor, he got the floor under him and the floor and the 2 floors under him, and he's on the top floor with nobody on it but him. The whole suite, that whole presidential suite is unbelievable to me. So okay, fine, you got that kind of cake. You don't just got cake and bread, you got the factory. You know, I get you. You know what I mean? So I was getting on the elevator to go down. I'm gonna get me something to eat, and the same guy that I had words with was approaching the elevator. So I said, "Oh, we finna get it in. I know we finna go at it," because he didn't like how he was upstage. So I'm like, the first thing I'm doing is I'm already sizing him up. I already know what I'm gonna do. You know, I already know. I'm just when you're a trained bodyguard, the way I was trained is not to be pretty. It's to inflict as much damage and eliminate a threat while still moving your client to safety. So I had already figured out what I was gonna do to this guy. You know what I mean? But he said, whoa, I just want to have a word with you for a minute. I said, what you got to say to me, man? And he said, somebody want to talk to you. I was like, yeah, who's that? He said, MJ want to talk to you. I said, okay, you know, I digressed a little. So we get on the other side elevator, because that's the only one that goes up to the penthouse. So we get upstairs to the penthouse, and when I get off the elevator, he got security guards all over the floor. I mean, on every door, there ain't even nobody in the rooms. He got security just standing in the hallway. Just, you know what I mean? I'm like, this is nuts, you know what I mean? So we go to this end of this hallway where the doors open inward, and it's a security guy standing there in full gear, full protection gear, you know, weapons, all that. So he walks me to the door, he opens the door. He don't go in, he lets me go in, and he closes the door behind me. He pulls them shut. And I look to my right, and I can see the rooms, and you know, balcony, and you know, all the living room, all that. Then I look to my left, and I see a game room and a big pool table with glass balls on the pool table. And at the end of the pool table, I see Michael Jackson holding a see-through pool stick.
Mm-hmm.
A see-through pool stick. And Mike standing there, and he says just like this, Mr. G, I'd like to have a word with you. I was like, okay, you know, now I said, first of all, Mike, put some bass in your voice. That's the first thing I said to crack the ice. I crack jokes, you know, and when I'm hosting MC shows, I do voices and I tell jokes because I'm an MC. So I had to crack the ice with him. You know what I mean? I just knew, just something told me to just say that to him. And he was like, Mr. G, I'd like to have a word with you. And I was like, first of all, Mike, put some bass in your voice. Say G. I want to talk to you. Say. And he says, G, stop playing. He's laughing. And I'm like, because I mean, you coming to me with this, you a man, talk to me. Like, talk to me. You know what I'm saying? Holler at your boy. You know what I mean? So I go in and I approach, and he talks to me, and he says, he loved how I carried myself, and he had a detail that he needs, a special detail that he needs somebody that's very special to deal with the detail. So I said, so I'm like, what you talking about, Willis? You know what I mean? What you talking about? You know, because hey, I hear rumors, bro. What you talking about? You know, so he says, so basically I asked him what was he talking about, and he said, you know, his mother, you know, she's a Jehovah's Witness, she still knocks on doors, and can I be a floater? So now I know what a floater, and a floater in my mind as a bodyguard, I know what a floater is. That means that I don't sit stationary in one spot, and you don't know that I'm even there to protect you. That's what my detail of a floater was at the mine. So I was flown in to watch her and her little girl, her lady crew knock on doors, and she don't even know that I'm in that black SUV way over there, trailing them to protect them. So that was that detail, and that detail went to other floating details and so on and so forth. So with that being said, I worked for him directly, you know, and I worked for his brother some years later, Tito. You know, I had him up in Gary, Indiana. I did a couple of memorials for them up in Gary, Indiana. I did a lot of stuff for Gary, a lot of concerts in the park out there called, what was the name of that park? Marquette Park. That was the name of it. And I worked with the mayors up there, Mayor Clay and Mayor White. You know what I mean? So the two mayors that was up there, I've done some things, some major things for them. And it's just amazing, man, to work with people of that caliber and for them to give me, you know, their blessings. You know what I mean? Like Lionel Martin from Video Music Box back in the day. You know, me and him was real tight. I did a song for him called Esta Loca, which was, I did it years ago with Tito Prentice Sr. too, you know, the Esta Loca. So, you know what I mean? And so it's just that when you deal with people like caliber, it's a blessing, man. And I didn't know that I was going to have all this happen to him.
That's awesome, man. And you know, that's actually the end of episode number 2. So the original G-Man of hip hop presents the G-Spot. We'll be coming back with episode 3 very soon. Stay tuned. Any last departing words, Mr. G-Man?
Every time you see G-Man, when you hear you know that G-Man, you know G-Man in the building. Thank y'all for coming to the G-Spot. We're gonna see y'all back here again next week, same time, same black station. We love y'all. Deuces.
Peace.